Have you ever felt someone slowly becoming a stranger, while you were still treating them the same? I used to believe people left suddenly. That one day something breaks. A final argument happens. And the story ends in a clear and understandable way. But the older I get, the more I realize that most endings are almost invisible. They don't arrive with noise. They arrive quietly. So quietly that you often don't notice them. Until they are already over. Someone doesn't disappear from your life overnight. They fade. And fading is confusing. Because nothing feels dramatic enough to justify the sadness you begin to feel. At first, it's small things. Messages that used to arrive instantly start coming hours later. Calls become shorter. Plans become uncertain. You notice it. But you tell yourself not to overreact. Because admitting distance feels irrational. When nothing bad has technically happened. There was no conflict. No betrayal. No clear reason. Just a subtle change in energy. And humans are surprisingly good at pretending not to see what scares them. So you adjust. You text a little less. You try not to sound needy. You convince yourself that relationships naturally change. But deep down, something feels different. Not broken. Just colder. The problem is that the human mind hates unfinished stories. When there is no explanation, the brain begins to create one. I remember replaying conversations in my head. Searching for the exact sentence. Where things might have shifted. Was I too distant? Too honest? Not interesting enough? It's strange how quickly silence turns inward. Instead of asking why someone withdrew, we start asking what is wrong with us. Because self-blame feels easier than accepting uncertainty. Uncertainty has no boundaries. It keeps you awake at night. Reconstructing moments that once felt normal. Now suddenly suspicious. And the more you think, the less clarity you find. Eventually, conversations begin to feel different. Not hostile. Not rude. Just empty. You talk. But connection no longer follows the words. And that's when something uncomfortable becomes clear. People rarely disappear because of a single event. They disappear because emotional closeness requires energy. And sometimes, people are simply too tired to stay emotionally present. Not because you are unworthy, but because being truly connected forces us to confront parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. Some people withdraw when life overwhelms them. Others withdraw when intimacy becomes real. Distance becomes protection. Silence becomes control. And fading becomes easier than explaining feelings. They don't fully understand themselves. I slowly realized something that changed how I see endings. Closure is mostly a myth. We imagine healing as a conversation. A final explanation. A moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But life rarely offers that kind of symmetry. Most relationships end without permission. Without announcements. Without a goodbye that feels complete. And maybe closure isn't something another person gives you. Maybe it's something you quietly decide to stop searching for. Because the search itself keeps the absence alive. There was a moment when I stopped checking my phone. Stopped rereading old messages. Stopped trying to understand the exact reason. Not because I suddenly understood everything, but because I finally accepted. That understanding was no longer necessary. Some people enter your life for connection. Others enter to reveal something about yourself. And when their role ends, they don't always leave loudly. Sometimes they simply become quieter. Until silence replaces presence. Now I think about disappearance differently. Not as rejection. Not as failure. But as a natural movement of human lives. Drifting in and out of alignment. Some people stay. Some people fade. And healing begins the moment you stop chasing the ones who slowly walked away. And start noticing the ones who never needed a reason to remain. Because the deepest connections are rarely the loudest ones. They are simply the ones that never fade.